Well, hello, everybody. This is my name is Rodney Veal, and I have the great fortune to sit with Lisa Wagner, who is the executive director of Levitt Dayton, to discuss how Levitt is doing, Levitt on the Lawn, and how it's doing in the summer as we are transitioning to something new and exciting. And she's going to give us details, and she's going to talk about where we've come from, where we're going, and the future. So, Lisa, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Rodney. I'm honored to be with you this morning. So thanks for having the time to take and have a chat.
That's great. It's my pleasure, my honor. You're such an awesome fixture in our community, and you're such an awesome leader for Levitt. So I have to give you praises. A little fanboying out here. So this is all good. So this is good.
Well, the feeling is mutual, right?
This is great. So this is good fun. So, as I said, we've had this interesting, for lack of a better term, an interesting time in our culture and our society with COVID. Not to belittle it or lessen it, and it has really had an impact on our arts organizations and our community. And we were sort of the living room of Dayton, so to speak, with live music and connectivity with our community. So we've got an exciting pivot and a shift. And so let's talk about that shift to virtual content and what you and the crew have been working on since March to kind of make that happen.
Yeah, thank you for that. I would say that it's been really hard. When we first started seeing this pandemic unfold, I think we all felt, including, the board and staff, we all felt fairly confident that being outdoors and having live music would be a possibility for the summer. Mm-hmm. So we kind of held out, holding on to that hope that there would be a live concert capability. We took a safety plan to the Montgomery County Public Health Department and had several conversations across those months about, does this make sense? How do things look? And we got a lot of really positive feedback. Actually, interesting comment about that is that the commissioner agreed that music was needed more now than ever, just for mental health reasons and connectivity, and he was very committed to helping us find a way, that we could be together.
And that kind of interesting sort of that they recognize the power of what art and music and can do to help, especially in these anxious time. Let's call it an anxious.
Yes. I think there's something. I think we always knew that music was healing and music was a connector. What we saw over those first 2 seasons in terms of community building. When I had a conversation with one of our regulars, Harold, who sits on the back of the lawn, and he said he was really sad to see the season coming to an end. And I think I was tired at the time, and I was like, oh, we'll be back next spring. And he goes, no, Lisa, you don't understand. I'm retired, and this gets me out of the house, and I get to meet people. And, I've met some really nice new friends, and I look forward to seeing them on the lawn. And as I walked away from that conversation, I thought, oh, wow, loneliness. I never thought about that, and that was something that we were doing as well. And, sometimes just being around people makes you feel full. Right. And so anyway, but obviously in light of Montgomery County being in the red level, risk level 3, there's just absolutely no way that we would be permitted to have people gather on the lawn. So we started having some conversations, and our production crew, led by Keith Thomas, we all had a virtual happy hour. I think it was in April, and we were lamenting about how might we do this, because we've really seen our community embrace the Levitt. It's theirs. This is their pavilion. And So we could use content from Levitt Denver, Levitt Memphis, all these other sister venues in the network, but we didn't think that our community would connect as much to that content because it wasn't on our stage. So, because we didn't film anything in our first 2 seasons live. So the guys all said, well, we can fix that. Why don't we find a way to film bands on the stage? Like, we can put a black curtain up on the front of the stage so that it doesn't draw audiences. We don't have the public address system up, so the sound is not, echoing through downtown like as a weekend, like it normally does.
Like a siren call.
Yes. Yeah. So we picked a date in June and July to start off with, because again, this is a conversation happening in April. We're thinking, okay, maybe we'll have a July start.
Right.
And, I do want to footnote that by the end of February, we had a fully programmed 53 concert season booked, right? So now we're unraveling that.
Right.
We're peeling that back month by month as we watch what's happening in our community, which I for the most part, everybody's going to 2021 so that we can support these artists, everybody's the ecosystem is in trouble, right? So we want to be as supportive and generous to those relationships that we nurtured booking our 2020 season. So we filmed 3 bands with Encore Dayton doing our filming and our production crew on the stage. Our next round of content that we filmed in July is now going to roll out going forward. But we had also kind of in tandem, we've been dealing with, we wanted to take our education and outreach into that virtual space. So there are a lot of conversations, Rodney, that were kind of happening at the same time. There was the season piece, and of course, all of the financial implications of that. And then we heard about how families were really struggling, especially from the education standpoint of keeping their young ones kind of engaged.
Right.
And the content was not really accessible. So we started having conversations with all of our nonprofit partners that we've worked with in the past. Normally, when we bring musicians into Dayton, we take them out into the community to work with our at-risk and under-resourced community. Trying again, it's always been
about people in the community.
Connecting and also meeting people where they are. We know that not everybody can get to us, so we try to get out and just for them to feel that they too are part of our Levitt family. And so we have great friends at Making Movies, the band that was on our stage with Enrique and Diego Chi, the brothers that lead the band. And in Kansas City, they've been doing a summer camp, and it's called Art as Mentorship and the Rebel Song Academy. And I'm like, how can we, they're talking about pivoting to virtual as well. And I said, isn't there a way that we can bring this to Dayton? And what they do is they pull in these Grammy nominated and award-winning artists to work with the kids. And so we launched that along with a songwriting workshop that Kashana Armstrong, another artist that was supposed to be on our stage, she worked specifically with Girls Lead at the YWCA.
Right.
So all of that has produced this really incredible content. Like, it was so important to us to lift these voices of these young people during this time. Mm-hmm. And we really want to hear what they have to say. So we're showcasing some of that music as part of our Levitt on Your Lawn series. And, again, as we look to the future, we're remaining to be flexible and nimble, that if by some miracle, Montgomery County, remedies the numbers, we could do a pop-up concert for our community just to bring everybody safely together.
Right.
But until then, it feels like this virtual space is the safest way for us to be together. And so that's kind of been our journey.
I love it. And I think it's so important to kind of share that journey. And it's like, so that people understand that this is not just, I mean, these are long days of trying to figure out multiple tracks.
Yeah.
To keep an arts, one, to keep an organization alive, two, to provide its services, and which is a much needed service. The arts are always a much needed service as far as I'm concerned. And also, two, of new ways to connect when we have to pivot to this virtual world. Those parallel tracks, you were running 3 tracks, and I commend you because I think this conversation is important so that people understand it is not easy. And I was.
No, it was that was the very first question we asked ourselves as a team.
Yeah.
How do you deliver mission without a venue?
Right. That's
and it's, our venue is, it's not really a music venue. It's a community venue.
Exactly.
So how do you create community in a virtual space?
That's such a great question. And I think you're proving that by outreach, underserved voices, giving them an opportunity to kind of engage in the art making process, to providing the concerts as a source of relief from because the concerts were really anxiety pressure release valves.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
And collectively as a community. And so here's an anxiety release valve. We're providing, and we don't know the full. We know we can intuit that is the positives.
Yeah.
And we won't know what the positives are until we do them. And that's important.
Yeah. You bring up really great points. The other thing that I think is really interesting is that when we were creating the experience, it was really critical for us to define that experience is not going to be the same, right? So like, it's not an apples to orange translation. No. Being on the lawn at the Levitt is a very special thing. And so as we moved to the virtual space, we almost had to retrain our audience that, okay, we get it. This is we're not on the lawn.
We're not on the lawn.
Here's how it might look. And here's how maybe we could get there a little bit. Like, show us what your setup is in your backyard. Invite your neighbors to your driveway and create, or, sit 6 feet apart and listen to the music together and have a shared experience. And I think as people started seeing pictures of people doing that, they're like, oh, okay.
Well, I was thinking about it when we talked. The one big word is you said educating our audience that this is a change in difference, but it's not just for the change in difference in how to take in content from Levitt. It's showing how to pivot universally in your own life to the circumstances.
Yeah, the new normal, and the unfortunate new normal of where we're at.
Yeah, and what the possibilities are for positive things in your life.
Right.
From the pivot, as opposed to the pivot to being a negative. We've introduced, here's a positive way to pivot.
Right.
And do it through music. And there is still an ability to share and connect with community. So I always believe like you make an action leads to a ripple effect in a community. And if we can show that this is possible, the pool of possibility, more positive things can come out of it.
There are a lot of positive things that have come out of this time. What have I learned? I've learned that, that doing a virtual fundraiser is a possibility. I think that we learned a lot about that. I think also, definitely going into a live season in 2021, why wouldn't we live stream to people who maybe can't make it, or who may, what about our nursing homes? Like people that are in prison or, that can't physically get down to the Levitt. How do we find ways to connect to them so that they have access to great music? So, it's definitely opened up some of that thinking. And
Cool. And then, so, I mean, we talk about what what we can do as organizations, but what can people do to help support organizations? Because, like right now, there's this hashtag movement of Save Our Stages. I don't think people really understand, because we talked about earlier about how fragile the arts ecosystem really is.
Right.
And one of the things that full disclosure, on the Dayton Live board, it's that, we do want to bring back things live on the stage, but there is a reality that we're dealing with, is the fact that we can't safely do that until probably the spring of 2021.
Right.
This also affects museums. This affects television. This affects dance companies. I mean, we're talking everyone is in a holding pattern and or pivoting to the virtual world. So what can people do other than watch? What can they do? What do you think that some of the things that people do?
Well, first and foremost, our survival this season has really been through the generous support from our season title sponsor, the Eichelberger Foundation, staying with us and supporting our pivot into the virtual space. So we are so grateful to the Jack W. and Sally Jack W. and Sally D. Eichelberger Foundation.
That's a mouthful, people.
Those trustees have been so generous and supportive of us, as well as the Levitt Foundation. They've supported all of the permanent venues as well as the AMP venues to keep creating community as best as we can. So those two elements really gave us the platform to even begin exploring this piece. So, talking about the Save Our Stages and what people can do, of course, we all want, everybody to show up and support the restart of these venues. There are a lot of independent venues that are not going to make it through this, unfortunately. So there's a lot of legislation there's a bill being discussed that we can reach out and use our voices to let our legislators know that the arts are important and that we need them. And just like all the other sectors, it needs to be addressed. So that's happening as we speak. And at the very baseline, just reaching out to your congressmen and senators saying, hey, please pay attention to this because it means something to me. And then I think too, for us, it's connecting with us, stay connected through the virtual space, our newsletter, check out our website, our YouTube channel, whatever it is that you can do to help lift up, the ocean a little bit, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. So, all of those social platforms, as our community starts to share it with their community, it just builds. And I think that's probably true for every arts organization. We need that. We need all of us need a virtual hug. And the only way that we're going to get a virtual hug is to have the community wrap its arms around us. And right now, that's what I think of with a virtual hug, is the only way that we can do that is through this space, unfortunately. So let us know you're there, drop us a note, hop into one of our concerts and talk to us in the chat. It would be great to see everybody. Right, just say hi. I mean, we really do. We miss everybody. And we know that the technology may not be there for everyone. That's kind of right? I mean, that's something that's the digital divide is real.
And so we know going forward, our challenges and our battles are going to be different because of this experience. Do you know, like not the overall, not the fundamental mission of Levitt or the fundamental mission of an arts organization is to provide its services, but now it's like there's another added component: leave no one behind,
right,
from the experience,
right,
because of that digital divide. And so now the question then becomes, like, in many ways, we all now have to pay attention to what's being funded, why it's being funded, why there's a delay in the funding, why are we not, like that one thing leads to another. So if we improve the digital divide for education, we're really improving the digital divide for the arts, for citizen participation and engagement. I mean, you know me, I go on that soapbox sometimes, but I just felt that's how we do it. This is how it starts. And if they see like this example of what we're doing and what the arts are doing,
I think about our sister venue in Sioux Falls. You know, they just had their inaugural season in 2019, and one of the things, I think things are more open in Sioux Falls than they are here. They're doing, they're taking it out into the community and doing pop-up concerts in small like places where there's like an open air market, and it's not big. I mean, it's just a way for them to go out and reach.
Wow.
And that's something that I've been kind of watching and paying attention to, that, you know, if we can't do it on the Levitt lawn, maybe there is a way for us to be in communities that typically couldn't make it online, or maybe make it down to the venue because of transportation issues, or, you know, the digital divide because of our virtual space. So that's kind of where my brain is heading, you know, into the, like, what's next. So, I mean, I think there's definitely, you're absolutely right, Rodney. And that is that we have to be thinking about all and everyone, and not trying our hardest not to leave people behind, and being intentional, I think, about that is really, really important. And I think that's the opportunity. And right now, in this time, I think that's the opportunity. So
cool. That's awesome. I think you've what you've done, Lisa, is given us a window into the Levitt, behind the scenes Levitt world, and then an insight into just what makes Levitt so special is that there's intelligence, humanity, and compassion driving what's being done, and you're the one who's driving the bus.
Oh, thank you. I have an amazing team. You know, Madeline and Abby have been absolutely incredible during this. And our board, I can't thank our board enough. I mean, especially our executive committee. You know, they've been by my side, supporting me. I think we were meeting like every week or every 2 weeks there for.
I think we were meeting every week. I think we were.
Yeah, I mean, that support was like absolutely phenomenal. And then, you know, also I feel really grateful to be part of this incredible network of venues, because as a network of the Levitt, excuse me, we've been meeting regularly, and, you know, it was a safe space for us to kind of blow some steam off, be mad about COVID, cry about COVID, and then help each other. Yeah, it was a really cathartic space. So, and now, you know, there's a lot of lifting each other up and sharing and cheerleading. So I am grateful. It's a collective by all means, and I include you in that as one of our trustees. But it's really been hard. I mean, it's really been an up and down battle. But you know, like anything, hindsight. You know, I know that when we get past this, we'll look back and say, what are the things that we've learned and what were the positives. And I think that there's lots. I think there's lots of great things.
And I'm so grateful that we'll be able to contribute so many positives in the positive column for our community because of all of us. All of us collectively working together because we believe in it. So
thank you.
That's so people stay tuned for the virtual version of Levitt, people. Here it comes.
Thanks, Rodney.